Welcome, my friends. Today's conversation is going to be with a couple of young women that represent a group trying to get the Community Preservation Act passed in the election on Tuesday. This subject has become to a forefront, I think, in the city of Woburn over the past couple of weeks, and it's getting closer, and there's a few questions here and there. So we decided here at the station to see if we couldn't clear up some of the misunderstandings.
Sounds
Emily,
great.
I already forgot.
Emily Bloch.
Emily Bloch and June Mackenzie.
Right.
Okay. So why don't we get right to it? You can start off, and then if this is the way we'll do it. I'm still a little bit confused myself, which is, for an old man, that's not bad. So what you can do is try. If I interrupt, don't get mad. So I just want to say, well, is this how that works or whatever? Okay, so why don't you just start off and we'll see how it goes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a few excerpts from a letter that the Mass Audubon Society sent to all of its members this week, which kind of summarizes the Community Preservation Act. Since the year 2000, up to now, 155 Massachusetts cities and towns have elected to join the CPA. They've passed the CPA. And this coming Tuesday, as Ed said, Woburn voters will have a chance to decide yes or no whether they want the CPA. What the CPA can do is allow us to get matching state funds for the purposes of historic preservation, open space, recreation, and community housing. The way that is obtained is that we're asking for a 1% surcharge on our residents and business owners' property taxes. It's not a tax, it's a surcharge, a 1% surcharge on the tax with a $100,000 exemption for residents and businesses, and a total exemption for low-income residents, and low and moderate income seniors could get a complete exemption on this surcharge. Since 2000, the state has distributed through their match over $469 million for community preservation, and that is money that Woburn has not had any share in. Mm-hmm. So we feel it's time for us to start sharing on those funds.
Okay. So first of all, we're going to say that I'll agree that it's not a tax because I checked that part out. But I rather than go, I looked at that, and I have a lot of experience with the city of Woburn relative to what they do. So, I interview the alderman, blah, blah, blah. Now, I think a lot of those things that the Community Preservation Act is going to allow you people to do, I kind of think the city already has departments to do that. Open space, say. The mayor's already contemplating buying Shannon Farm over there on Lexington Street. At least he says he is.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I know he's going to, but Murray's already ahead of him for $7 million.
Right.
So that makes it complicates things,
yes.
But at least he's thinking about it. Now, let's do this here. How many members were going to be elected? How many people are we talking about?
On the committee?
Yeah. 9, right?
You mean on our committee?
No, you mean on
the
campaign committee?
If it's passed, right.
9.
5 of them are from existing city departments, and then there are 4 at-large members. They can be either appointed or elected. It's kind of up
By
to,
who?
well, that has to be decided. The city council would have to decide whether they want to appoint them or have an election to elect them. There's
Really?
it's not set in stone how those 4 are appointed.
Oh, I thought if there was 151 cities and towns, I thought we already had that resolved. Every city
it's
and
up
town
to
does it
Each city
differently?
and town gets to decide for themselves how
Right.
they want to.
Okay, so
make
the
up that
5
committee.
that get appointed now.
4.
So the 4,
Yeah.
okay, so the Conservation Commission might
Right.
appoint 1.
Right.
Yes.
That means the Conservation Commission would meet and say, we want Emily, and then you would be recommended to the city council to
Yeah.
be approved?
Exactly.
Well, first of all, the 5 are one is from the Conservation Committee, one is from
Oh, that's already
Parks and
been decided.
Recreation, one is from Planning Commission.
Okay.
I forget the other 2
Building
at the
department,
moment.
maybe.
And so the other
Yeah.
4 are the open ones, and they are decided by, again, like June said, either election or appointment and the city
We're
council
not
will
gonna
decide.
run no election, have these people put on it.
Some towns do, some towns don't. I think,
I don't know if there'll be time, well, okay.
yeah,
If it passes, we'll worry about that later, but I was just wondering,
exactly. We
okay.
worry about that later.
So now,
Passing it is the important
What
part.
about when, if somebody said, we're building the bureaucracy, you know? I mean, you guys are gonna meet, you're gonna make a decision on what particular project you might take up. Like, so let's just say for
Yeah.
Shannon Farm, we're interested in procuring
Yeah.
Shannon Farm for open space.
Mm-hmm.
So now, you have to have meetings, right?
Well, actually,
Right.
if I can lay out how it works, that
Yeah,
might
go
answer your
ahead.
question. Anyone, once this is adopted, anyone in Woburn can say, I have an idea,
Yep,
and put forward Shannon Farm, whatever.
yep,
And they can say, I have this idea. They and their friends or whatever put together a proposal.
yep,
That goes to that 9-person committee.
okay,
And that 9-person committee assesses what the proposals are. They make their recommendations to the city council.
right,
City council looks at each of those proposals that have been recommended and has an open council vote on it. If it is passed for the funds that they've requested, then the money comes directly out of that CPA fund. And the way you get around the bureaucracy is it's a totally separate fund. It does not go into the city general managing budget. It is only for these areas. And so it's only for these proposals.
Well, yeah, so historically, now I'm talking about, the traffic commission started off with a bunch of volunteers, so one-way streets, the traffic over here, I want this, that, you know, so they meet. Now, they don't get paid, they just meet.
Yeah.
But now, over a period of time, they have to have a clerk. One of you, it's always a woman anyway, we make all the women do all the writing of the notes.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they're better at it.
So you have to have a clerk, you have to have notes, because now when you address my recommendation, somebody's gonna write this up, and then you're gonna have it presented to the city council in some kind of a formal matter, you know, like a letterhead, you know, and stuff like that, that becomes, you know, pretty soon we have to have a filing cabinet, then a desk and a chair, maybe some office space, you know, I mean, that all happens over a long period of time, but it does grow, it does grow. Especially the more successful it is, the more it's gonna grow. So that, I mean, that.
Well, so far, that doesn't sound like too much of a negative.
The other little problem I have is I wonder if it infringes. The person who has me more confused than anybody is the mayor of Somerville, because he has used this money in like they did a lot in Davis Square. I don't know if you guys told me that or I found that out myself, but he's used a lot of this money, and I wonder whether I would have loved to have him say, you know, this is how we do it in Somerville. You know, I get the money, they get the money, and I
Well,
agree with what they're
we
doing.
do have some information on that. First of all, 10% every year has to go for historic preservation. 10% has to go to open space and recreation. 10% has to go to community housing. And it doesn't have to be spent that year. You could save it for a future project. The other 70% you could spend in any one of those 3 areas, but you can't spend it on anything else. And I heard we have a Woburn resident who works in the clerk's office in Cambridge. She says that in Cambridge, 80% is going for community housing because housing costs are so high there.
Yeah.
But the mayor of Somerville can't spend it on anything except in those 3 areas. And he
But how
can't
does he
decide
how
on
does
his own.
How does he get the say when you guys get the money?
Well, he doesn't.
doesn't.
It's a committee there, too.
It's a committee
Yeah,
there.
he is
So
a big...
I mean,
He might be speaking out in support of some programs.
Right.
But he does not have the say. His city
So
council
he could,
has a
he
say.
might recommend to them that how they use the money.
Yeah,
Right, but they have to,
but he's
Vote on it.
recommending as a citizen.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just the other part is like housing. We have a housing authority. You know, I mean, they do Section 8s. We've got
Right.
projects here and there. I have a project here myself, but that's not exactly what I think you guys are talking about. But I mean, the McNabb's over there. He has a lot of customers in his under his care, plus the Section 8s. 40B is another
I was just going to bring
problem.
that up. This would help us get rid of 40B.
Yeah, but then see, I think, okay, I'm the one that's doing the talk, you guys are supposed to be talking. Realistically, the city of Woburn's always been like 6 or 7%. You have to get
Right.
to 10.
Can I tell you how we can do that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you how you can't. They gotta build 80 or 100 houses, single-family houses on Wyman Street alone. And
Yeah.
now that's gonna set the city backwards, you know what I mean? It's a forward move because the city's growing, but it sets 40B backwards
Well,
because now instead of being 7 or 8 and you get 100 new houses, we're gonna be 4 or 5 again.
But you know, if we had been able, if we'd had the CPA, maybe
Yeah.
we could have bought Spence Farm and that wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of maybes too.
But
Go
the
ahead.
CPA can definitely help us get to 10% affordable housing so we can get rid of those 40B projects that force projects that we really don't want into Woburn.
Because the biggest difference with the CPA is you could then say, I have a proposal on community housing that is not going to involve Section 8 or involve a project. I have an idea that's going to, turn Spence Farms into moderate income condo with open space and a park around it.
Yeah.
Right.
And CPA money can be used for something like that because then it meets both criteria.
Yeah, I don't think
What-
anyone wants to
what
build.
about, we have a historical commission, we have
Mm-hmm.
the historical society,
Right.
and now you guys are getting into history too.
And they're both in favor. We've spoken to both of them and they're
Yeah.
both in favor of the CPA.
They're both, because
We
they
can
don't
provide
have- They're
fu-
never gonna get as much money as you guys
No, they
have.
don't have money.
No, they don't have any money.
No.
And this is money that already exists in part, because one of the things that I think June, well, obviously she mentioned the surcharge. That surcharge goes into that state fund and right back to Woburn with matching state funds
Right.
that have been raised from Woburn and other communities, because every year, every property transaction has a fee attached to it.
Right.
A deed or a lien, and that money goes into that state dedicated fund.
I
Over the
mean,
last 2
And we're not
years,
benefiting
Woburn has
from it.
given
It's
over
a- it-
$250,000.
Yeah, I think it's a good argument, but I think that I pay state income taxes, and it comes back to the city in different ways too, you know what I mean?
And that's to eliminate that.
Yeah.
This is to come back straight into these 3 areas.
Right, we're not getting anything from those fees that are going to the Registry of Deeds.
Right now.
Right
Right.
now, we're getting nothing
No.
from them. We're paying them and not getting any benefit,
Yeah.
whereas communities like Lexington are reaping all kinds of benefits because they joined the
Yeah,
CPA.
I thought about that too. But I mean, people in Lexington are what do you say, economically more affluent than the people in Woburn. And people like, I think the last time we talked about Hingham and Duxbury. They already got a whole bunch of money out of the whole thing, you know what I mean? But if we're lucky enough, to own $1 million house in Duxbury, and your percentage of the surtax was $1,000, well, you don't care. It's not a big
Right.
deal.
But what about
Because you got so
communities?
much money, you know what I mean? You're
But
very
there's other
well off.
communities
What
that
about
are not
communities
well
like
off.
Fall River?
Yeah.
Mashpee is not a wealthy community. They've passed the CPA and
Well,
they're
why
seeing
would
the
only
benefits.
150 out of 351 cities in
It's
town?
almost half. We're getting
We
there.
gotta go, yeah.
Every year it's
How
this
long has it been going on?
since 2000, and this year 8 communities have it on the ballot, including Woburn, including Arlington, New Bedford, and a number of other. And a couple of communities are voting to increase their surcharge.
I think that's a good idea if you could get it passed once. You know, I mean,
Well,
it's
we're
common
trying to get
sense.
it passed.
Yeah,
That's
if you
the
can get it
idea.
passed- If you can
Yep.
get it passed once, then I'd be
Yep.
jumping right on, let's get more. We can get more money if we
Yeah.
raise the thing up to, what is it, 3? 3
Yeah,
is the
3
highest?
is the maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would be
Yeah.
the way I look at it. You gotta get inside the tent first before you can
Yeah.
start.
Well, we feel like we should have been inside the tent a few years earlier, but it is on the ballot now.
Yeah.
And I will mention also that the city council voted almost unanimously to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, that's because
without
they don't want to
opposition.
vote on it themselves. That's
Well, they can't
politics.
vote on it themselves.
They can't?
No, it has
No,
to
it
be
has
a
to
ballot
go.
No, but I mean,
initiative.
they could have made a recommendation. They say,
Well, a couple
Let
of them.
the
They
people
could
do
make
it.
recommendations, and
Yeah.
that's exactly my point, is that their recommendation was that it be on the ballot.
yeah, but
And
you
we
should-
did
Why
attend-
wouldn't they recommend that it pass?
Because politicians do not want to
Yeah,
say
that's
yes or
right.
no.
That's right.
But
So
you know,
they-
a couple
they
of
push it
them,
off on.
a couple of them did have us come to neighborhood meetings and allowed us to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was nice.
And in the city council meeting that did vote to approve it, there were very few negative comments about it, people who didn't want it. And the majority of the comments were positive.
We've been
Yeah.
canvassing
Yeah.
extensively, holding signs in the center,
Yeah.
and we've gotten a very positive response. We're very encouraged.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
mean, you get what you sow, right? You reap
Yeah.
what you sow.
Yes.
So you do the work,
Yeah.
you get the results.
And one of the best things about this is the transparency. So one of the comments I've gotten from knocking on people's doors is, I don't trust the politicians.
Yep.
And I say, well, it doesn't matter if you trust them or not because they can't really put their hands on it. This is something that is going to be absolutely dedicated to these projects, to these approved projects, to these 3 areas.
Well,
So,
how do you deal with the business community where they would pay a bigger tax bill because naturally they get buildings and all that stuff? And
Yeah.
they don't vote here, they vote, maybe they live in Lexington or somewhere.
well, some of them live here.
Yeah.
I
Some
think
live
there's
here, yeah.
certainly quite a
Yeah.
few business owners who live in
Yeah,
Woburn.
that's right.
And business communities are, you're right, I mean, first reaction is that, oh no, another surcharge.
Now,
And
if you
of
had
course
my
it is
pocket, you had
higher.
my hand in my pocket. Everybody
It
in
is,
my pocket.
they will be paying a greater
Yeah.
amount because they have properties that are worth more than
That's
the
correct.
residences in
So
general.
you tell them
But-
what? You tell them what?
That the adoption of it brings new business into the community, it generates jobs, it increases economy, so businesses have found in the places where it's been adopted that it has been beneficial to their own businesses. And that the
You're not making that up,
surcharge,
are you?
No,
No.
New Bedford, was it New Bedford, I think?
New
They
Bedford.
came around and they're very supportive. They wrote letters in support of it to the local newspapers.
Yep.
Because it does increase revenues for the city.
All right.
and in some communities where there has been some hesitation on the part of businesses against adopting it, after it was adopted, they realized, oh, this is actually working for us, and we can get on board with it.
Yep, I believe it. I think, it's possible, I could put it that way.
Well, one example I can give you,
Go ahead.
or one bit of evidence, is that written into this act is that if a community does not like it, they can vote it out in 5 years. And not a single community has done so.
So it gets passed here in 2014 and 2019, we
You
get
can
rid of
repeal it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, by that time, you guys have a pile of dough, though.
And
And-
everyone will be saying, this is great. We have so much
Yeah.
money and we're doing such wonderful things.
How long has this been going on, anyway,
It
Like
was
you had
passed in 2000.
in the legislature?
Yeah, I
In the
think
Mass
money
legislature.
started getting
This-
distributed around 2002. And you know, Mayor Dever did try to get this passed in the year 2002.
Yeah, I remember
But it was a
that.
very last-minute effort, and they
Yeah.
asked for 3%.
3%. That
So,
3% knocked it right off.
It did.
Yeah, so we're trying again.
Yeah, well, that's
We're
good.
hoping we
And I
succeed.
can also mention that it has bipartisan support. This is a totally nonpartisan act. Republicans and Democrats on Beacon Hill are in support.
Nobody jumps up and says this is a bad idea.
No,
They voted to put an additional $25 million
Yeah.
into the state fund with surplus budget funds
Yeah, I
to make
almost-
sure the match
I
would be.
almost jumped out of my skin when I saw
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? You wonder, where they get this, where they got
I
a print
know.
and press down the salary? Well, we need somebody ours just to send them a check for 25 million,
Yeah.
not 1 million or 25 million.
Which
It's
is
going-
great.
it's going to
Yeah.
good use.
yep.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. But I'll take that up with my representative from the 30th Middlesex District, and Mr. Kaufman, when I see them. But,
That's right.
So what else we got? Let's go. We're gonna get going here. We've
Well,
got-
I can mention some projects that other communities have.
Let me
Down.
say, what if you said, we're gonna buy my old dilapidated house up on Vernon Street, and,
Do you know that it could be used for some private residences if there's a public benefit? That's the language, public benefit. You might have to open your house for tours or,
yeah, I might have to convince my neighbors or something. to say-
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always going to be not in my backyard. You know, I mean, that's going to happen too, because you're going to say we ought to try this, or take over that land, or buy a house and fix it up and rent it to some poor people. That, you know, and everybody says, I don't know poor people living in my property.
Well, you know, a low-income person in Woburn can earn quite a bit of money. I was working part-time last year. I would have been low income. When I looked at the figures, they're quite high because median incomes in Woburn are quite high.
Yeah, but not as high as Lexington.
That's true.
Yeah.
The other point is community
And neither
preservation.
is our surcharge, because
Right.
Yeah,
our
right.
property
that's
taxes
right,
are
that's
lower.
right,
The
yeah.
average homeowner would pay less than $24 a year. How many large pizzas is that?
I don't know, but we could argue a little bit about the money part of it. I
Yeah.
don't know. So if my house is assessed for $600,000, there's $100,000 off,
Right.
So that gets me to 5.
So you'd pay a little more.
1% of 5 is well to
Well,
get
no,
it to get
it's-
it down lower. There's no houses. The builders buy them all and
Nope.
tear them down and build new ones.
What
You know,
are
I mean,
your,
that happens.
But you know, it's a percent on your property tax, not on the value of your
The
house.
house, yeah,
Right,
but I mean,
right.
my property tax is only a multiple of what my
Right.
Right,
assessment is,
that's right, yeah.
it's the
So
same
if you have a
thing.
$600,000 house,
Yeah.
you might pay about $50 a year.
Right,
So
Yeah.
how many pizzas is that?
well, there's a lot, yeah, it's a lot, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's still 50, it's still $50, so you.
It is $50, but for that $50, the town gets back that 50 plus matching funds from the state. So
Right.
it's not going into a black hole. It's coming back to Woburn
Right, but I've.
with
been-
interest,
I've been through,
so to
not this
speak.
particular instance, but I've been through this enough times to know that it's the same as when you're trying to build a school. You have to have all your ducks in a row because you're looking for money,
That's true.
somebody to give you money. And now there's usually a lot of strings attached to that. Because we want to build, we've been trying to build, like we just finished this school. Now
I was
we're
just
gonna
gonna bring
try
that
with-
up.
We're
Yeah.
gonna try
Yes.
with the Harold Wyman School, and they're already working, keep it going. You're after this money because it's free money. It's not free because they put so many strings attached to it that it's.
What
they
do you think
take
some of the strings are?
I don't know.
CPA?
That's what I thought maybe you might.
Well, one
say.
of the projects,
Well, okay, so let's do it this way.
The strings are, it has to be in these 3 areas.
right, historic preservation.
That's
Look at our library. We just got a state grant, but we have to match it to
Yeah.
fix the library. It's never been renovated. Sometimes you can take a little bit of CPA money and get a much bigger matching federal or state grant. If they see you can put up some money, there are communities that have got millions in exchange for putting up a much smaller amount of CPA money.
All right, so let me go, so I could get this straight in
So
my
it
head.
can grow exponentially.
We're gonna go to the city council, us three here,
Okay,
and we're gonna say, we wanna, get some money for the library, we're gonna do something for the library. So we write up a nice proposal, got a grant writer, somebody who can write.
Right.
Because, well, I'm not gonna say that either. So, we get somebody to write a grant, like a grant proposal, we take that to the city council. Now, they read it.
no, we take it to the committee,
The committee first,
Or the committee
the
first.
committee,
yes.
The whole committee.
the 9-member committee.
Okay, so now when the committee gets it, they tinker with it and move it around, say, okay, we'll
Write
change
it
that
up.
paragraph and
They
do this there.
assess, right, they
Yeah.
assess its feasibility,
Right,
basically.
and then when we send it, we like it, so, okay, send it
Yep.
to the city council. And what do you think they do with it?
The city council looks at that proposal as well as all the other proposals and sees which ones are most beneficial.
Because we're gonna
Or
have more than
Woburn.
one
Definitely, yes.
Of course.
at a
Yeah,
time.
they decide
Okay.
what's the
Yep.
most
All right,
important,
so they
most
say,
pressing.
okay,
Yep.
I like the one where we're gonna spend some money, I don't want the library, let's spend the money on some church or something, okay, so they say, okay, we like the church. Do they get to tinker with the verbiage on the grant proposal?
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
I don't
They
think so.
just got
They
out.
just vote on the
That's a
funding.
good
My
question. They
just go
understanding
up
is
and
they
down.
just vote on the
Yeah.
funding, yes.
Okay, they go up and down. So
Yes.
once they go up and down, pass, I wonder how many votes it would take, 5 to 4?
Majority.
Majority, okay.
Yep.
And then from that time, 5 to 4, it's in the mail and off to Boston.
That's right.
And now they get it in Boston, and they put it in this big pile
Yeah.
of the
Well-
151 cities and towns that are belong to the CPA, right?
Well, no, that's not how it works. They've
Yeah.
already sent us our share based on a complicated formula. We've got the money. We've got our money, and we've got the state matching funds. It
How'd you
doesn't
get
go.
it? You don't even have.
They distribute it every year. The state distributes it every year according to a formula. We get our share, and then
And
we
what if you
just.
say, okay, we're going to spend it on a restaurant downtown?
You can't
It's
do it.
illegal. Can't do that.
Unless it's a historic restaurant and
But-
you're renovating it.
Yeah, but I don't think it would
Okay,
pass.
so
no.
now,
Yeah.
now I'm really confused. You mean you?
We get the money
You
from the
already
state.
get the money.
If we pass this next
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
we start collecting the surcharge in a year, and we'll get funds in 2016. We'll get our share from the
For
state.
not even putting a piece of paper there.
Well, we
could
passed
pass
it.
the act.
We passed the law.
If
Yeah.
you adopt it,
Oh, I thought it
We
was the
adopt it.
opposite. See, I'm thinking you're asking for money to do something.
No,
and
no,
they
that's not
say,
how it works.
No.
Woburn controls it.
Right, we get the money, we decide we'll spend it this year, or no, we need to save up for a few years for a certain project. You can use the money to bond a project.
For example, you
But we
brought
get
up
the money.
Shannon Farms. As soon as this act is adopted, which we sincerely hope it is,
Yeah.
it can be used to, I don't know the technical terms, but you can get a bond on it
Right.
immediately, even before the taxes have been, the surcharge has been collected next year, so that a bond could immediately be issued for Shannon Farms.
Really.
So it could immeasurably help the city.
Yeah, Shannon Farms,
Yeah,
the
well,
last,
that changes my whole. That changed my
Yeah.
whole thing. That's pretty weird. See, we
Yeah.
didn't know. I thought you sent your proposal in for the winning farm to.
Nope.
You know,
no,
and then it goes in. There's
No.
151 prizes there.
No.
No way,
Then
no.
they say.
You
I
send
like
it
that
to
one. So
Woburn.
you guys got to wait.
it's all in
Yep.
Woburn. The money has come to us from,
So
Boston.
How do they determine how much money you get?
it's a complicated formula we
yeah,
hear.
I'm sure it is. I'd
Yeah.
like to know who.
But we
writes
get
this.
our
Who
fair
writes
share.
this thing?
It's basic. Oh,
Who
I
did
don't
you have
know.
write that?
The city
thing that's on the
solicitor.
ballot. Is
City
that the-
solicitor, well, we got some help from the coalition, Community Preservation Coalition, but the city solicitor had to write the formal language for the ballot, and it is,
Hard
I don't
to
think, it
understand.
doesn't even say community preservation, but it's question 5 on the ballot,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it did say community.
It does in the description.
in the
but not in
description, not on the
This is-
title.
As a sideline, we just, that's the problem with these things.
I know.
Who writes them? You gotta vote yes to get no, and no to get yes, and all that
Right,
kind of
When
Right.
I read the question, I thought, is this our question?
Right.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one, a couple of the others are even worse. All right, we're gonna have 28 minutes, we're going out at 30.
Okay.
So let's-
Okay.
Let's go, you want the 2 minutes, or you want a minute each? Whatever you wanna do.
You
Wait
may
a minute.
start.
Okay, well, I
You
just
can take
encourage
notes.
everyone to vote yes on question 5 on Tuesday. I think it's a win-win for Woburn. Money we've been missing out on for years. Let's cash in and take advantage of this money. We've got so many pressing projects in the city that we could use this money for, so that your taxes don't have to be raised to pay. Let's let the surcharge and the matching funds improve our quality of life in Woburn.
See, that would be one of my other questions, was 1% for me is like $50, like you said.
Unless you get the senior exemption, and a senior's
Yeah,
over
I need a
60.
double senior
It's over
exemption.
60. Everyone over 60 is a senior,
Yeah,
according
I
to
just-
this.
I just passed that. If the surcharge, I pay an extra 50 on my surcharge on the tax bill, because that's just the way to collect the money.
Right.
So they collect the money. Now, if the mayor said, I want to raise your taxes $5, we'd rocket ship out of him out of town. He'd be gone, you know what I mean? And that's another hard thing for people to understand. How can I pay $50? And the mayor raises the tax rate $2, and everybody goes crazy, you know what I mean? That's just one of those.
Well, maybe you don't see the immediate benefit of the $5.
Well, that's why we're here, telling him to.
Right.
You know, he's doing the best he can with what he can
Yeah.
do, you know, and now we come up with this other deal, we're all set. Yep. All right. So why don't you say thanks a lot and
Yes,
goodbye
thank
to
you
the
for
city.
having us. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was great
Oh,
to
you're
come on the
welcome.
show.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
One of the most important points of having a local cable station is back to the transparency.
And
All we're trying to do
critical
is educate
community
the people
issues.
so that when they come out,
Yep.
they can say, I like it, I'm voting for it, or I don't like it. And
Exactly.
if they
It's
don't
your- right.
understand it, then it's our fault. Right?
Exactly. It's their choice.
That's exactly right.
Thanks for watching. Next time.